It's very easy to judge from the sidelines. The truth is that when a person is completely overwhelmed, it's very easy to judge their poor decision making or their lack of ability to make decisions. But sometimes you have to put yourself in their place too. Yes. So go ahead, Roger.
It was a breakdown, since we'd all agreed. It was wild. I was in the waiting room ready to go in, and when they mentioned the $20, my parents looked like fools. You know? When we got in the car and headed back home, first my parents argued, you know? They argued, asking how they ended up in this situation. After all our work, we still don't have 20 euros to pay him. Where are we supposed to get that? My father was just out of it. You know, he didn't even know what to say. And there was this silence, an extremely awkward silence on the way home. Extremely awkward. We had all accepted it for over an hour all around Barcelona, you know, going home like zombies, you know. And we got home and my mom did feng shui and she had 20 euros saved because it was supposed to bring wealth in a little red bag or something like that, you know. In their room, she finds some blouses and takes one out, then starts hitting my dad on the chest saying, "Do we really have to use this to pay for my surgery?" It sounds like a movie, but that's what happened. I remember as a kid seeing that and feeling really happy because I could get the surgery. But at the same time, wow, that was my breaking point. That was like the worst moment of all, realizing how screwed we were. That's when I became aware, you know? How can it be that for 20 euros, man, I mean, I'm in Spain, I don't live in Africa, you know? How could it be that for 20 euros they would have accepted that I wouldn't get the surgery? How are we in such bad financial shape when most people in Spain aren't? It seemed really extreme to me, right? And that's when an android was born. That's when I became an android made to make money, you know? Like, from that point on, I just didn't care about anything anymore. Everything. That was the moment. Obviously, after that, well, we lived, I had surgery, I went through an intense recovery, and I followed it with military discipline, you know, like really military.
I'm interested. I'm really interested in the fact that when you go back to the hospital, they operate on you. What do the doctors tell you when the operation is over? What was the result of that operation?
That's amazing. That's also a huge fact. I didn't want to go on about it, but it was impressive because the doctor was convinced that I wasn't going to walk. I mean, he was convinced that the operation was only to relieve my pain, you know? I mean, he knew that I wasn't going to recover, that it was only to relieve my pain. And I had been studying, like someone studying medicine, everything about the L1, L2, and L3 to clearly understand the preoperative steps I needed so everything would go smoothly and I'd have the best chance during the operation. And I had worked on that really well, a lot. And I had done a lot of mobility exercises, stretching, pressure exercises. I had done everything. I was very disciplined with the preoperative routine. So when I came out of the operation and the drugs they had given me wore off, the first thing I did was stand up and walk. But it was because I just wanted to check that everything had gone as I expected, because what I had studied was, if you've done everything correctly, they remove the things from the nerve and the nerve should work, you know, right there, instantly. And well, since I had studied it, I stood up and walked and I said, okay, next step, now comes the post-operative phase. And the doctor started freaking out, you know. At first, obviously trying to stop me, you know, I brushed him off, you know. Because when I started, everyone told me I wasn't going to make it and I was already fed up, you know? I wasn't listening to anyone. But go ahead, ask.
Your mindset before going into the operating room was that everything they were telling you that you weren't going to walk was just a lie. Yes. You had convinced yourself that you were going to walk.
100%.
So you believe in NLP?
Yes. Now I'm actually going to Tony Robbins in September.
Yes. Or I really think this is a very extreme case of being convinced that you are capable of doing something, even when all the predictions from the most knowledgeable people on the subject tell you exactly the opposite. I think your testimony and your story are truly incredible. Yes, you got up and walked even though the diagnosis was that you weren't going to walk.
Yes, for sure, man.
Absolute certainty.
Certainty.
You never doubted.
It's crazy. It's crazy. My mother got obsessed with making me cry because she thought I was sad, but I was sure about it. I was just studying it.
Your mother thought you weren't processing a reality while you were actually in that mental state of, yes, I'm going to move forward.
I was in my own world, but she believed the doctors had a fear. You know? Because we're taught to listen to science. You know? But I had my own truth.
And you weren't familiar with the term NLP?
No way. At that time, I hadn't studied NLP, consciousness, or levels of consciousness at all. I was just a very, very unhealthy guy. I've been extremely obsessive my whole life.
I would love for you to explain to the audience what NLP is, because right now we might be talking about something people don't understand. And it's not to make this show about me because your story is incredible, but something similar has happened to me, not as serious. I mean, not in such a delicate situation of not knowing what NLP was, but applying it and having things turn out exactly as I thought they would. Because the conviction was so certain, so sure, that it was impossible for things not to turn out the way I thought they would. So I think that the way we talk to ourselves and how we first create our reality in our minds is what makes us succeed or not in life, or achieve or not achieve the things we've set out to do. And truly, your case is absolutely spectacular because it's a case of neuro-linguistic programming applied to a medical issue.
Yes, it challenges science.
Did you challenge science?
Yes, completely. In fact, look, if we go here, they'll cancel us. They'll cancel us. I'm going to tell my truth, but without any filter, as if we were talking behind the scenes. I think that now it's very easy to understand how the matrix works thanks to artificial intelligence. Because I believe the matrix we live in is a real intelligence, you know? And you direct artificial intelligence through prompts, through prompting. And the prompt in real intelligence is what you let out of your mouth. Every second of the day, if I say something that doesn't benefit me, I correct myself instantly. I was just talking about this with Manu, who's a climber in our program. I correct myself instantly because I'm not going to throw out a prompt. I mean, imagine asking her how I can ruin my life. You wouldn't self-sabotage, right? You just ask for what you want, correct? Well, I believe that everything I say out loud conditions real intelligence, and it's real. I mean, when we're born, we were born into a family that's not really rich or poor. After spending time with many rich people, I can confirm they definitely have this. It's wild. We're used to saying terrible things about ourselves, but such terrible things that we're condemning ourselves to misery, you know?
That's true. Many people self-sabotage.
With what you say out loud, things you shouldn't say about yourself, you know? And it's not a reflection of your mind. Your mind ends up thinking what you say, which is different. Because how does NLP work from my point of view? You say the prompt, and that same prompt goes into your ear, and what goes into your ear is what feeds your brain. So you have to say what you want your brain to end up thinking. It's not what I think or say. No, you end up thinking what you say. So speak correctly and you'll end up thinking that. Say everything you want to happen, everything you want to achieve.
Or write it down.
Or write it down, exactly.
To me, the power of writing down exactly what you're going to achieve seems super powerful. Today I was talking to a fighter from my MMA gym as well, who just signed with a company and told me about it. Sorry for making a little aside here, but I thought it was amazing. A shout out here to my Venezuelan friend Belucci, who literally told me, I just signed with Cage Warriors, and 4 years ago I wrote, if by the time I'm 25 I haven't signed with a major MMA promotion, I'll retire from the sport. He did it. He's about to turn 25 now, and he signed right on time, just like he wrote. So I think these things are extremely powerful. And going back to your story, when you wake up, the doctor who didn't believe you could achieve what you were convinced of, which was to walk again, how does he react? What does he say to you? How does this great story of resilience go on?
Yes, in the end, that poor man did his job well. I will be eternally grateful to Dr. Obario because he did his job very well. He performed minimally invasive surgery. He could have opened up my back again, but he did it perfectly, just a small cut on the spine. And well, that man was really scared at first when I wanted to stand up. And when I stood up and walked, well, he started, really, you should have seen it. He started saying it was a miracle. This is a miracle. This is a miracle, you see. He told my mother, you know, this is a miracle. I was walking and already thinking about the post-op care I'd studied. For that man, it was a miracle. He kept repeating it like someone seeing the Virgin Mary appear and greet them, you know? Because he was absolutely convinced that I couldn't walk. I actually went into the hospital unable to walk. I was already in really bad shape by then, you know? I was sure that when they took the pressure off my spine, disc, and nerve, the nerve would react properly because of everything I had done right. You know? I hadn't drunk alcohol or smoked anything. I was 100% healthy, and that helped a lot with recovery. Also, since I did calisthenics and practiced a very intense sport, I had developed really good. Like the nerve gets stronger, you know? So I had a quality nerve, so to speak, you know? And a lot of exercises I had done to create space, even if just temporarily, several times a day, to give that nerve some oxygen, you know? Well, I knew that kept it safe until I could get surgery. Several little things I had been studying, you know? So I was sure about it.
Completely self-taught.
Yes. And you know what? I also realized something else, which is that the doctors took it for granted that I was going to be a lost cause, and that's why many of them also refused to operate on me, because generally no one is willing to do what you have to do to recover your legs. They assumed that even if I told myself I had to follow the super intense step-by-step process, I would still fail. Do you understand? That's why for them it was impossible for me to recover. But I studied it and did it because I didn't need anyone watching over me to do what I was being told. Remember that, because for me it was about walking. For me, not doing it wasn't an option, you know?
Incredible. I want to ask you, how hard was the pre-op period? I mean, it was a very strict military discipline and extremely complicated to carry out. So complicated that many doctors thought you were going to end up sacrificing your legs if you couldn't do it. I'm not sure I'm explaining myself because what you just said sounds really tough. For many doctors to say that people won't recover their legs because they're not able to properly follow the pre-op instructions seems absolutely outrageous to me. Are people really so lazy and undisciplined that they'd risk losing their legs just to avoid following a step-by-step process?
I understand you. It's just that I realized that most people in that situation give up very easily. In fact, let me tell you something crazy. Right? When I got out of that situation, 3 months of summer, because that was right before summer, I recovered over the summer doing some intense exercise, you know? And I got to university my first year, and you're not going to believe this. I met an Indian guy named Mihali who came into my class in a wheelchair, you know? The same thing had happened to him. And I stayed talking with him at the university bar, and I told him that I was just like him, but that I had surgery, and I did things the right way, and now I walk. And he refused to believe me because they had told him no, that it wasn't possible, that it wasn't possible, that it wasn't possible, that it wasn't possible. And the same thing had happened to him, you know? That it wasn't possible, that it wasn't possible, that it wasn't possible. And I said, bro, yes, it's possible, you know? It's possible, look at me, you know? And no, but you probably didn't have the same thing. And I showed him, well, I had everything on my phone, you know? Because I was studying around there. I showed him everything I'd been through and what was wrong with my back. That man never returned to college. After I met with him and now we talked at the bar, my idea was to inspire him to get out there like, look, I mean,
He could still do it.
I don't know. But at least look into it. Go for it and give it your all. It's up to you. Damn, man. Don't just believe what the doctors say. Study it, put in the work. Find options. If I've done research at my age, right, with everything I've looked into, for example, what's it called? There's a guy who's like a school like Mind Valley, but there's a man who healed his spine from not being able to walk with his methods, spiritual ones, and I believe in all those things. So there are methods. So I wanted to convince him there to find a way. That man was so shocked by my reality that he avoided returning to the university to not see me.
How incredible.
It's crazy. Also, meeting Mind Valley was like a mirror of what I could have lived if I had believed the doctors. For me, that moment, having overcome it, having recovered my legs, made me unstoppable. That made me realize I could do anything. I understood the matrix is just the matrix, and that I don't have to believe any of it, and that whatever I want is possible. And from that moment on, my success began. I would say, man,